right, you bunch of yahoos. Strap yourselves in for another episode of Dan and Don's Toxic Masculinity.
In other words, shut up, sit up, and pay attention.
And here we are for another episode of Toxic Masculinity. I'm here with my co-hosts, the one and only Don the Predator Frye, and yours truly, Dan to be Severn. And we're here to entertain, offend, defend anyone and everyone. But here, hopefully, simply to wake most people up and to shove their face into the cow pie of reality called the truth. Sometimes it doesn't smell all that good, nor taste all that good. So, anyway, there's the introduction, and we have a couple guests here right now, a couple Vietnam vets. But we're here talking about war stories. We're here talking about, not just war stories, we're talking about their background in being in Vietnam, and the fact that we have just the one book here that is on display right now, Vagabonds. But we also will be talking about a couple of their other books that they have also written here as well, just to bring some notoriety. But we're talking to a couple real men in today's world of where people wake up in the morning and have to identify what they are and what they're going to be doing today instead of simply just get your ass out of bed and go to work. So without further ado, I think that's enough right there, don't you think, Mr. Frye?
That's more than enough, Gus. And I've identified myself as a man today, as I do every other day, and I bet you guys do it too, huh?
Well, I'm not touching myself. Yes, I do.
Wait, when you identify yourself as a man, when
Well,
you
you gotta
touch
check,
yourself?
yeah. Could have gone animal over the night.
Yeah.
See if we got any horns.
You know what? I've woken up in that position before. Huh?
I'm sure you have.
Yeah, that was, only twice.
But we're talking about actually, I'm not sure how many of the stories we've talked about so far that are in the book of Vagabonds that we've talked about. This book was actually written originally back, you said,
We wrote this during the Great Quarantine.
Yeah.
We got quarantined in Tucson, and we watched all the things on Netflix, and said, well, what should we do now? Let's write a book about what happened when we got out of the military.
Well, where did you guys hail from, though? I mean, okay, that's when you guys were stationed down in Tucson, but where'd you guys come from? Where was home at that time?
At that time, I was living in California.
California?
The People's Republic of California.
All right.
I had moved to Tucson about 2 years earlier because we had been negotiating with Pinal County about taking over a big portion of Pinal Air Park and running it. And they actually had put out a request for proposals for people who wanted to take over about 40% of that property. And we wrote a proposal, and they thought about it, and then they withdrew the request, and then they hired a study group to do a study, and then they put out a new request, and we submitted another proposal, and everybody told us, you guys are in like Flynn, you've won this thing, don't worry about it. So I moved down here because I thought I was going to be
from where, though? Where you moved?
I was in Newport Beach, California.
Okay, California, all right.
Yep. And I moved down here because I thought I was going to be the general manager of a big, huge chunk of Pinal Air Park. And then they withdrew the second request and left us flat. And I had raised $1 million in earnest money that was sitting in an escrow account. And my guy that put the money up said, well, screw these people. I'm taking my money and going home. Yeah. So here I was in Tucson. About 6 months later, the same guy calls me. He's a really good guy. And he said, what are you doing, Jeff? And I said, I'm unemployed in Tucson. That's what I'm doing. And he said, well, I have an idea. I want to start a whiskey called Toxic Masculinity. Are you in? And I said, I love it. I love it. I'm totally in. So I was actually the second person involved in the dubious project of making Toxic Masculinity whiskey, which is now going pretty good. Yeah. It's We're in 6 states with regular distribution. We're in 31 states with internet distribution, and people are starting to recognize it. And it's a long process, but it's going forward, you know.
Cool. Are you in Nevada?
Well, the guy that I was talking about was living in Nevada at the time, so our headquarters is in Nevada. But he recently moved to Tennessee and bought 260 acres of land to build our own facilities on.
Right.
And the company headquarters will soon be relocated to Tennessee. You know, you got to move the corporation and all that.
Right.
That's not my thing. I'm a promoter.
Well, obviously, you guys were probably shooting around different types of names. What did you guys come up with the name Toxic Masculinity and then settle on it?
Charlie came up with it. I don't know how, but I love it. And, you know, he's the father of a teenage boy, and he's been really worried about what's being done to young men in this country. And he had a real, mission to use the whiskey as kind of a way to poke the far left in the eye,
Right.
and, which so far has been very successful. We got
Well, I mean, that's what Don, Frye, and I know what we look at, because we came up with the name for the podcast. Don actually came up with the name Toxic Masculinity because it's the absolute worst thing to be
We
inside
stole
the
it.
United States.
We stole it from the liberals.
yeah.
So it's kind of like going, well, I mean, obviously we must be some of the worst people in the world, so we want to lead with that. This is who we are. That's
Now that I've gotten to know you and be here in your house, you are 2 of the worst people in the world. I can attest to that.
I'll concur with that. After that trip down the cow path to get here, the only thing missing was some kind of Guernsey out there mooing into the wind.
Or a raptor.
Yeah. Well, you know, every few days you can see a bunch of black helicopters fly across and go back to the
all right.
back.
We used
all
to
right,
be on those.
wait, back up. First of all helicopters at distance appear to be black.
Yes.
It's just the way optics work.
But when they're
The
5
government does
miles,
not
when they're
use-
5 miles away, they are black.
They don't use black ones.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
telling you.
they paint them up in all kinds of Gary's, Channel 5
Right.
and Evening News.
Right. Yeah. Ambulance, cover them up.
They're usually gray.
Alrighty, Danny.
Yeah,
Next.
I'm just looking at that. Couple young guys from California end up in Tucson, Arizona. Coming up with a Toxic Masculinity name. You guys are based there. I mean, I'm just like going,
He was there. We've been using Marana as a training area for 26 years.
Right.
We run shooting courses there, driving courses there, training bodyguards for foreign nationals. We trained 150 bodyguards for the richest guy in Mexico at one time down there.
And we trained 1,600 Marines for pre-deployment to Iraq.
Yeah.
So we've been, September 1996 was the first time we used Marana as our training site. And it was pretty nice
Used
in
to be
those
fun.
days. When Evergreen had it, it's not,
They-
we're still using it, but it's degraded considerably.
Yeah, you know the story behind Marana?
no.
It was a
CIA,
base
right?
in World War II. They trained fighter pilots, so all the buildings there they have these little rooms that are pilot-ready rooms. They got a bed, and a bathroom, and that's it, right? And they're in the old World War II style one-story buildings and that. And then after the war, they were training. The agency was training Mountain Air, which was Tibetan resistance against the Chinese communists. They were training the Chinese forces, pilots and air crews to do airdrops and that over there in the Himalayas. And then the guy from Evergreen bought it, and it became, us in the business, it's not Evergreen, it's Everslime. Evergreen's been sued by everybody, including the Catholic Church, and has never lost a lawsuit.
Really?
Yeah. So he had it for years. His son had a really intact collection of World War II and later aircraft. He also had 2 functional tanks and a couple of half tracks and a going to make a stop here at this glass that were out there too. And then when his son died, the old man sold all the aircraft and that. And then a new group came in and bought it, and that's who runs it now. Is some air group. That's it. For a long time, it was the place where the space shuttle 747 was hangared, and it's a C-check facility. Every year, or every so many cycles, every aircraft that flies with a U.S. number on it has to have a C-check, where they X-ray the wings and they go over all the engines, they clean the windows, kick the tires, and out it goes in that. So it's a C-check facility still to this day. But all the old buildings out there have been raised except for the ones just right around the airstrip. Yeah. Right now there's about 400 aircraft parked out there. That when the quarantine came along, everybody in the world that owned airplanes that couldn't fly them anymore said, "What? Time to do the C-check." Sent them down to Marana and piled in mechanics and did C-checks on everything they had in their fleet. And they're gradually starting to bleed off and go back into the industry. But if you go out there today, you see a ton of planes out there. But it's an interesting place. It's got a lot of history out there.
Right, yeah.
Well, along the same travels down that way. There's a lot of old B-52 graveyards, stuff like that.
No, that's Davis Monthan.
That's Davis Monthan.
That's the other side of Tucson, the boneyard down there.
Yep. I've seen those.
If you go down to 10, when you go by Sirocco Peak or whatever it is, Picacho Peak, you look off to the right, you'll see all these tails of big aircraft sitting out there. That's Marana, Pina Air Station.
Mile 232. So, yeah, and we went there first. Then we almost got thrown out of there, like
several times.
About a year and a half, because we started a fantasy camp. This is in the book, too. Not very much, but it's touched on. We started a fantasy camp that was selected by the Travel Channel as the #1 fantasy camp in the world. And it was Secret Agent Fantasy Camp. Oh, geez. 3 days of being a secret agent. We did driving, we did shooting, we did a hostage rescue, we did code breaking, all kinds of stuff.
Surveillance detection, dead drops, live drops, yeah.
So USA Today newspaper comes out, and they said they did a complete article with pictures about it in their Friday, which is their weekend edition, and big headlines, 4 inches tall. Spy camp, okay? And then it goes in talking about how it's at Pioneer Park in Marana, Arizona, right? Well, the guy that ran the place for Evergreen pulls me aside and goes, Jeff.
Got to stop this.
Do you have any idea how much time and effort we put into trying to convince people that we are not a front for the CIA? And you come out with a freaking 4-inch banner headline, spy camp, about this place? This is not good. I'm afraid we're going to have to never let you back on this place again, right? Well, Evergreen was owned by just one guy, a guy named Del Smith, who had been on the board of directors of Air America.
Yeah.
So I had a very, very close friend who I consider a mentor. He and I go back a ways, and he was a very infamous CIA guy, wound up getting indicted by Congress over Iran-Contra and then pardoned by George Bush the First.
Well, Senator Church told him, said, well, Mr. So-and-so, I believe you only have a casual acquaintance with the truth.
So anyway, I called him and I said, hey, do you know Del Smith? And he goes, well, a little. We've met. He said, but I got a buddy of mine who plays golf with him every week. They're super tight. I said, well, can you call your buddy and have him tell Mr. Smith that I'm a cool guy and they really shouldn't throw me out of their facility? And The next time I went there, they literally had girls throwing rose petals in front of me when I was walking, man. We own that place. But unfortunately, in 2011, Evergreen gave up the lease. That's why we were angling to take it over.
Right.
They leased the airport half out, but the guys that moved into the airport didn't want the other half. So it just, and to this day, it's just sitting, going back to the desert.
Yeah.
They've never
Arrested decay.
We offered to spend $3 million a year for 4 years to completely renovate everything, and nothing.
Penal County makes the Biden administration look like a civics class. Really. I mean, the people are just, where did you people come from?
Well, we found out later there were 2 county commissioners that were making the decisions that had never even been there.
Okay.
It's only an hour and 15-minute drive from Florence, and they'd never come down. So what are you going to do? Politicians.
We had a lot of interesting people that came out there, though, that took the class.
How long did that camp go for? I mean, before
We started a second one in the Virgin Islands in the class started in 1998. We started a second one in 2000 in the Virgin Islands, and we closed it all down immediately after 9/11.
Our opening day was 9/11.
Yeah. It was actually 9/12.
We're standing on the top of the house we'd rented there in St. Thomas and that, drinking a cup of coffee and watched the plane fly into the World Trade Center. And I yelled down at Dennis. I said, Dennis, I think you might want to come up here and see this. He was back in the States.
I was back in the States getting brochures printed.
Yeah.
And he called me. It was 6 o'clock in the morning in California, and I was sleeping on my
Turn the
ex-wife's
TV
living
on.
room floor.
And how fast do you think we can sell these rubber boats and Yamaha engines? Because we're going to need to.
Yeah.
No, it was done.
Well, the cruise ship, it was a cruise ship excursion. The second one, the one down in the Caribbean,
okay,
was for people getting off cruise ship, guys getting off cruise ships, because we had met with the cruise industry, and they said they got all kinds of stuff that women love to do, mostly shop, but they don't have that many attractions that men like to do. So we got the perfect thing, a Pirates of the Caribbean rescue mission with paintballs and an amphibious landing on a small island, and they'll love it. And the cruise ship industry thought it was wonderful, right? But on 9/11, the cruise ship industry shut down, and they did not reopen traffic into St. Thomas until April of the following year. And we didn't have anywhere near enough money in the bank to sustain us all that time. We'd already spent $180,000 building up the stupid island. So we lost it all. We lost everything.
We set two guys down there. One was an ex-French intelligence agent.
Yeah.
And the other guy worked for the State Department. Or was State Department or
Well,
yeah.
He claimed to work for the
he
State Department. Oddly enough, I didn't know the State Department actually had people posing as South African officers in Namibia. But hey, what do I know?
No. He ran up a $700 bill with porno films from the rental film industry and left it.
When our other partner, the Penguini, got down there, the TV was still on in the house. And we have no idea how long ago they'd left. But they didn't even bother to turn the television on.
wow.
But so we moved down ourselves, and we spent like 8 months getting everything ready to go and perfect. And we did a couple of test runs with cruise directors from all the cruise lines, and everything was just dead nuts perfect. And then 9/11 hit. And not only did the cruise ship industry shut down, but we shut down the one in Arizona too, because reality just interfered with the fantasy. It was too close to reality, and it just wasn't something that we felt comfortable selling as fun and games anymore.
Right.
So that was the end of that very expensive experiment.
Could you imagine losing $180,000 now?
Don, how well do you know me?
You'd be crying still.
I would have found that 108,000. You know,
He'd been curled up in the fetal position.
I
The
was.
book is full of little experiences like that. We were on the cutting edge a number of times. Unfortunately, we were never able to parlay that into fortune that lasted for any length of time.
Yeah.
We got rich a couple of times.
Yeah.
but
I've
Lost.
personally made $1 million 3 times.
Yeah.
And I've personally lost $1 million 11 times. So, it balances out.
I'm sorry, that math did not balance out.
Yeah, well, that's what we thought,
You
too.
got a few more subtractions that took place in there versus the pluses.
There are definitely more subtractions than additions. That's for sure.
As long as you had a lot of fun along the way.
Oh, yeah.
It's been fun. You read that book, you'll see. I mean, it was a wild, wild ride.
Yeah, I wrote 2 books before this
Yeah, that's what he was saying.
that were basically about the 2 years I spent in special projects. And then we came down for do a project for Cameroon in West Africa. And the day I got here, it was like 2 days later, 3 days later, we leased an apartment because the thing was we were leasing them 6 737 400s.
Yeah.
And they were doing all the livery and everything out at Marana and C-check equipment. And it just, St. Patty's Day, 8 o'clock at night, they came in and shut everything down, and we were stuck in quarantine for 2.5 months.
Holy shit.
So we wrote this book in 67 days. We were sitting there going, well, we watched everything on Netflix.
Right.
What do we do now? Write a book.
Which one? Well, okay, what was the name of the book at that time? This one right here? Or,
This one here,
Okay.
Vagabonds.
Okay, Vagabonds, because I know that you said you'd written a few books before that, and I had those names.
Right. The 2 books before that were, first one was called We Few,
Okay.
and the second one was Whispers in the Tall
Tall
Grass.
Grass.
And they were about the 2 years I spent in special projects running deep penetration reconnaissance
Where at?
in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Vietnam, Laos, and the northern targets. A long time ago.
I'm gonna irritate the shit out of you because that stroke I had. So sometimes my memory will go this long, sometimes it'll go this long, and so then.
Not a problem. He's 75. I'm 74.
Right. We'll be requesting
Yeah, we
the
got
same
the same
thing and not even know it.
We didn't even need a stroke to get there.
Yeah.
Did it on their own.
You're lucky. You're lucky. Shit. You waited.
Well, one whole chapter in this book is basically about me being sick.
Yeah. Fuck. Yeah, you got the squirts down there.
I know. I was in Burma advising the Karen National Liberation Army, which is one of the ethnic freedom fighter groups in Burma.
Yeah.
It's the same group that supposedly rescued Stallone at the end of the 4th Rambo movie.
Oh yeah.
Only I was with the real guys. And I got dengue fever for the second time, and I was really sick. My temperature was about 106, and I was delirious, and I got out of my little bamboo hut to pee and walked off a 100-foot cliff.
Holy shit.
Fortunately, I
Who
only-
found you then?
The Karen.
The Karen, they heard
Karen-
all the noise
Karen
of me
thought
because
there
I was
a white
tumbling through the
orangutan
brush.
laying in a wire down below.
I was tumbling through because there was vegetation on the side of the cliff. It's jungle. And I was falling and rolling, and I hit a tree, broke my left collarbone. Then I went through some other kind of foliage and put 3 huge gashes from my knee all the way up to my hip. And I finally got tangled up in the foliage and was hanging upside down about 40 feet down from the lip. And the Karen heard the commotion, thought the Burmese army might be coming up, and ran to the lip, all locked and loaded, ready to repel boarders. And I'm hanging upside down there and going,
I'm with you guys.
So they dragged me up. It took 4 of them to drag me back up. And they laid me out on a tarp. And the only medical supply they had was a gallon jug of denatured alcohol. So they wet down some towels and swabbed me off, which immediately put me into shock because I had 106-degree fever.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I got into a boat and went downriver. They threw me into a pickup truck, drove me to Chiang Mai, Thailand, and I spent a month in and out of the hospital in Chiang Mai. Yeah. It's in there.
Yeah.
We sent him for rubies, and he came back with rabies.
So this was the first book, Vagabonds. Was that? You said it was the first.
This is the first book we wrote together.
Together.
We,
Okay.
Yeah, collaborated on.
Can we go back in time? How old were you gentlemen at that time in Vietnam?
How old were we when?
How old were you at that time?
My first trip to Vietnam, I was like 18, 19. And the trip that I wrote the 2 books about, I was 23.
But still, I mean, can you imagine any of these young millennials making some of these trips right now? I mean, it's a whole different.
The millennials can't even make up their mind about which ice cream without crying.
They can't even decide which sex they are.
Yeah. What color
Now,
phone?
Generation X, there's a lot of hope for them. Generation X which is his son and my son's generation.
It's me.
They still have some balls.
Right, that's me.
But the new crowd, they need some stiffening up.
Yeah.
How old are you, Don?
56, sir.
Okay. Yeah, you are a youngster.
He's a Generation X.
Yeah.
63.
63. Okay,
Yep.
you're almost an adult now.
Almost an adult. Almost.
I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to make it or not.
You'll make it.
Because the guy I know who's the most terrifying fighter when it comes to just like a street fight is 85, and he
Fred.
still terrifies me.
Fred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His name's Fred Brewster.
The only thing missing are the 2 copper lugs sticking out of his mouth. He does. He looks just like Frankenstein.
How big is he?
He's big.
6'5", 260.
At 83 years old?
And if he'd never taken any martial arts, he still would have been bad.
Yeah.
But as it is, he's like a 9th degree black belt.
Wow, what style?
Kempo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We've had a lot of interesting times with
He used
Freddie.
to take me to parties at the house of a guy that was involved very heavily in mixed martial arts, King of the Cage and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Dominic, something started with an R. He had a house in Huntington Beach that looked like the Hogwarts Academy in the Harry Potter's movies.
Yeah.
Gray stone with gargoyles and all that stuff. Yeah, we used to go over there. There was always all kinds of mixed martial arts UFC guys there. I didn't, they were just. Huntington Beach was a big center.
Right.
Wasn't Rusty Coombs involved in that crowd?
Rusty just beat people up in bars.
You know who he's talking about? Dominic.
Well, again, I mean, just for the area they talk about, Huntington Beach, that was the stomping grounds of both for Tank Abbott
Right.
and for
Tito.
Tito Ortiz. So
Yeah.
I know what they'll
He said Tom.
I think
Dominic
Fred was one of Tito Ortiz's instructors at one point.
Really?
Yeah. He was a mere lad of 68 or something. Well, I was 47 when the first UFC match was held. So Fred's 10 years older than me, so he was 57. So wow, we didn't quite make the curve for that. Thank God, because I would have been just stupid enough to try my hand at something like that and gotten myself killed.
We've had a lot of discussions about that, about people movie stars and other people who, they didn't offer me enough money to do it, blah, blah, blah. Well, bullshit. If you're a competitor, you're a competitor.
Get people like that little midget De Niro.
Yeah, right.
Played all these bad guys, and he thinks he's one.
Oh, what a fucking asshole.
Oh, him and Boss from New Jersey. I'd like to be alone in a room with both of them.
Oh,
In
no,
fact, I'll be
that guy.
blindfolded, and you can tie my foot to my forehead.
You're pretty flexible. I'm not that flexible.
I am. I've been married 3 times.
I can't even see my foot.
How many page book is it? I did not get a chance. I saw the front cover.
180 or 212 or something like that.
It's 200 and something. I don't know. Look at it. They're all numbered,
Yeah, just kind of curious.
except that one.
We'll see how many months it's going to take you to read. Or what.
Is it pictures? Is there pictures in the book?
228.
228.
And you guys, you said you wrote it in 6 weeks?
And
Something
what-
like that?
67 days.
Oh,
start to
67
finish.
days.
Well, but what it is all the stories in the book we've been telling in bars for years. And people always say, oh, wow, you guys ought to write a book.
Yeah, okay.
You ought to write those down.
Had nothing else to do, so he said, let's. Yeah.
Nothing else to do. So we wrote down all of our bar stories.
Not all of them.
Not all.
Well,
of them.
yeah,
some
I
of
mean,
them are
there's
not
some
fit for
might need to be.
publication.
There's more left out than there is included in that book. And sometimes you have to kind of read between the lines.
Like the first time we met Liz Taylor. He's out in the limo. I had to go inside. I knew Moshe a little better than he did. He says, what's his name? Roddy McDowell.
Roddy McDowell.
Roddy McDowell's sitting with her, and she's a very gracious lady. You know. So I'm in there, and I'm about half tanked. And I go
Which is
inside.
pretty much all the time.
And he keeps ragging me. He says, get her autograph. I want her autograph. I need her autograph. I drummed into my head. We get there, and she goes, oh, it's Moshe's going to lead me out. And he says, introduces me, and I'd say hi. He says, is there anything I can do for you? I said, well, you know, my partner has seen every one of your movies, at least 6 times in that. Could you possibly do an autograph for him? She said, well, I don't have anything that I could write on. I said, what about your underwear? My feet never touched the floor all the way to the doorway. And it gets me outside. She goes, why would you say something like that? I don't know. It seemed like the time at the moment. That's probably why we lost all that money.
Yeah.
Inappropriate behavior.
Yeah, things like that are not career enhancing.
No.
But they make good stories in the book. So hopefully it'll all come back around and the book will make it all right. One of the chapters in the book is about us being Elizabeth Taylor's bodyguard for a brief stint.
Ooh, how was that?
It was interesting.
Well,
Hey, how old was she?
Oh, this was she was in her late 50s.
Oh.
Yeah, this was. It was when she might have been a little younger than that, but so were we.
Right.
It was when she introduced her first perfume. Elizabeth, we did the security at the release parties for Elizabeth Taylor's Passion perfume.
It must have been a dangerous
it was the
situation.
guy who was her chief of security was a guy named Moshe Alon, who was an Israeli.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that we'd met during the '84 Olympics, and then he parlayed that into bodyguard to the stars and all that. And he had all these Israelis that worked for him, and every one of them I was in the Mossad.
Right.
Yeah, sure you were. Okay. You were a clerk in an airborne battalion. Yeah. If that's the Mossad this week, okay. So he has us come up to help supervise the crew that's there. So Jeff and I are floaters. We're wandering around, going in and out, and, making sure all the guards are where they're supposed to be, keeping the paparazzi back. And it was at the guy's house who owned Herbalife.
Herbalife.
Yeah. And they had a casino in the bottom floor of the guest quarters or whatever it was out there with, the one-armed bandits and all that. Yeah. And there was a bathroom, big thing that was reserved for Miss Taylor, and nobody was supposed to be using it. So Miller and I are kind of roaming around the crowd, and we set that up as our pivot base to come back. And Zsa Gabor falls in love with him.
All right.
She's like, oh, my beautiful Captain Nemo. I started calling the John, the Nautilus after a while, because he'd pop in there to hide from her. And Jose.
Yeah, something like that.
With his little straw hat and his pigtail. He came down to go use the bathroom, and Miller tells him, this is reserved for Miss Taylor. Well, I'm so-and-so. So
Great.
well, I'm going to go inside, and he tossed them into the pool
Yeah.
with all the imported frogs and the lily pads. And when he surfaced, his hat was gone, and so was his hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll never work in Hollywood again.
Toupee.
Hurt my feelings.
Yeah. I was only temporary anyways.
It was when they were taking her out. There was a member of the Light in the Sneakers crowd who had snuck into the bathroom, and then finally he took all his clothes off except a pair of black dress socks. And as the Praetorian Guard of Israelis are taking her out to the car, and that he pops up amongst the one-armed bandits and going, "Oh, Miss Taylor, I've seen all your films. I love it so much." And they swarmed him, got him on the floor, beating on him, and going, "Oh, I love this job, Bill. I love it." So that was our Hollywood.
Yeah, but
experience.
try following her around Neiman Marcus, watching her try on shoes for 3 or 4 straight hours.
Who?
Elizabeth.
Oh, wow.
And the glamour of bodyguard work fades really
Yeah.
quickly, especially when she was trying on a pair of just plain black pumps, just that they sell in every shoe store in the world, right? And I'm looking at the price, and they're like $350, and this is in like 1983, right? When $350 could actually buy something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I said, Miss Taylor, you can get these at any J.C. Penney's for $35. And she grabs my cheek and gives me a pinch and little, like, you're so cute.
Shut up,
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah. Like she'll never pay that kind of price for anything. Yeah.
No,
yeah.
of course not. It's
Peter Falk showed up at this party with a woman, absolutely gorgeous, that her dress was being held up by her nipples,
Oh.
and she was walking around.
I hate that when that happens.
And he's sitting there. He's going, I could rob everybody in this place. They wouldn't even know it.
Yeah.
Nobody's watching me. Okay, man. Yeah.
Wow.
She was spectacular.
Yeah.
That was our one and only venture into being bodyguards for the stars. Lasted about 4 months?
Yeah, but that
Something like
the woman that was the guy that made all the toys for McDonald's.
Yeah.
She was a piece of work. You heard the term dumb blonde?
Of course.
This one, she lent credence to all of that. She had 2 Rottweilers in the house that were like vicious, and she'd always forget to call the front gate where the guard was and tell him, "Hey, I'm letting the dogs out." So the 3 or 4 guys got bit. So I show up for work one day, and I had some lobster sandwiches, lobster salad, and put them in a paper bag, stuck them on the chair that's sitting outside the thing there, and there's the old carriage house is where the garage is with the French doors and that. I go in there to activate the alarms and that. And I turn around, and two Rottweilers are chewing my food up, chewing it up, sitting around. And I walked over to the door, and I'm going, "You son of bitches." And they came over to the door, and they're like growling at me. I said, "Okay, big dog." So I opened the door a crack and pissed on their faces. Alpha dog shit, right? Next thing you know, they're at my feet. One of them's in my lap. Moshe shows up to check on me. He goes, "Oh, you've tamed the dogs." And he stepped inside the door, and they chewed the whole ass end out of his suit pants.
Oh.
Well, they were all right for me, Moshe, but they're not quite ready for you.
Yeah.
You got to do something manly.
I actually got arrested. Well, not arrested. I got stopped in Palm Desert. I used to run 3 miles every morning. And I'm
It
running
was
up the
obviously a
road.
long
I
time
used
ago.
to, too. Yeah.
I'm running up the road, and this woman's out there in her chinos or high heels, clipping along like Peg Bundy and that, and got this Shar-Pei. And the Shar-Pei's not on a leash. It sees me, triggers its prey response, runs up, nips me on the back of the leg. I snatched the dog, bit it as hard as I could behind its ear, yelps, down, rolls over on his stomach. We're fine, right?
Right.
She calls the cops.
Of course.
Cops show up. Young patrolman comes up, and the dog's still running around loose. It's $270 fine. being off the leash, right? And I'm wiping my leg off, and the dog's right there, and she's on the phone. He grabbed Fifi, and he just attacked her for no reason whatsoever. He took her story, and he came over to me. He goes, so what happened? Well, running, and got the dog off the leash, as you can see, and triggered his prey response, and it just ran up and bit me. He goes, did you bite the dog? Yeah. Why did you bite the dog? It's an alpha male thing.
I just told you the dog bit me.
And he goes, oh. So he goes back over and he tells the broad, he says, he wrote her a ticket for $274. And he tells her, you should hope that this guy doesn't sue you because that dog is off the leash in that. And after that, every time the cops would go by, they'd see me on the road, they'd go, hey, woof, don't bite the coyotes, they got rabies. I'm just hoping we can find the pavement on the way home.
Yeah.
That'll be a big step.
Oh, pavement's about a mile and a half that way.
Yeah, I've heard that before. Go down to where the turkey was last September and take a right.
There's a woman in the book called the Spider Woman. She has a real name, but we couldn't use it.
Yeah.
And she's in there. She's in 3 or 4 different chapters in there. She's a very good friend of ours. Crazy as mad as a
What woman is it? What woman is it? Tell me that.
Yeah. Well, this one is like the one that all the other women strive to be.
Got an advanced degree.
But she used to live on a ranch in Hamul in San Diego County down in California, and it was the same thing. You drive, and then you turn, and then you drive down a smaller street, and then you turn onto an even smaller, then you turn into a dirt street, and you drive, and you turn off to another dirt street to find her place. And when we're driving out her, I'm like, Jesus, it's like going to the Spider Woman's house.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, same thing.
That's what I thought.
Dirt roads.
Only thing missing was the stream.
You obviously, if you would have came in the other direction, there is a stream.
That's
It's a dry. I should say it's a dry.
Of course.
Dry creek right now.
Of course.
You came up the hill, right?
We came the back way. I mean, we were on dirt roads for at least 25
we
minutes.
couldn't
You came up the
find.
steep incline.
We couldn't find Cloud 9.
Yeah, that's the cheap.
I'm sure we passed it
Golden
twice,
Ranch
so in two
Road, we
different
found
directions.
that.
Yeah.
And then Equestrian Trail,
Yeah.
which eventually became a coyote den.
Well, we went down, when we turned off onto the dirt on Equestrian Trail, we made a right. We took the right fork instead of the left fork, which was Golden Ranch.
Right.
But we drove and drove and drove and drove off into nowhere on Golden Ranch, and even the lady on the GPS gave up.
kept yelling at us. Turn around, you dodos.
Make a U-turn. Turn around.
You fucked up.
Turn left in 50 feet. Turn right in 60 feet. We're like, what?
She was stuck on the left for like 20 minutes. Take a left at 600 feet. Or you've done that. Well, there's nothing there but a gate and a cow.
Right.
Anyway, we eventually found it. It was an adventure.
Well, we couldn't give you directions, so we were told that you all could find your way,
Well,
not,
we did.
not to bother.
Took about 20 minutes longer than we thought it
It's
would.
called veiled sarcasm. With a thin veil.
Very thin. Yeah, it's not covered up very well.
But you gentlemen just drove in from, was it Tucson?
Tucson.
Right? Okay, so you live
17 miles. Well, we went way more than 17 miles.
17
this time.
miles only took 17 minutes till
17.
you got to the dirt,
Yeah.
and then it took another half hour.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I mean, most of it's just driving up Oracle. Because we live on Orange Grove, about 3 miles west of Oracle. So we came down Orange Grove to Oracle. We got on Oracle. We drove up. We got off on Golden whatever.
Golden Ranch.
Golden Rancho.
So what do you guys do now? You do
And after that,
podcasts?
things just went to hell in a
That's it.
handbag.
Yeah, that's podcasts. Yeah, that's all I can do now.
Yeah, I got a feeling that's not the truth and the whole truth.
I'm just curious. You guys came to Tucson again years ago, and you guys have ran project after project. You guys have just never have left.
Well, it's only been 4 years now that we both lived here. I lived here 2 years, and he's lived here
2 years.
2 years. So I've lived here 4 years total.
We've left. I mean, I lived in the Sudan.
I
for a
mean,
year and a
over
half.
time, from the early 1960s to now, I mean, I've lived in Massachusetts, North Carolina, Texas, California, Germany, Kuwait. I mean, all over the place. He's lived in Vietnam and
Thailand.
well, he came from Minnesota originally.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Which of the 10,000 lakes?
And one muskie. And there is only one muskie.
I went there. I spent some time in Minnesota. A guy named Brad Reagans. Brad Reagans broke me into pro wrestling over there, and
Well, I still remember Vern Gagne.
yeah, he worked for Vern. Yeah, and
Minnesota was a
What
hotbed
was the
there
other
for-
guy? Pretty boy. Something had the pink.
Well, your governor.
Oh well, Jesse.
Jesse
I like
Devine,
Jesse.
Ventura, yeah.
I knew Jesse.
He's
when he
like
was a
every
SEAL.
other-
I liked him
Seal.
until I met him. And then that was
Well,
it.
He's a SEAL.
when he was actually when we say it, it's pronounced this way. Seal. But he was a big kid. He was up at Tandushan when I was over at CCN.
Yeah.
But Tandushan was a naval base in Da Nang, where all the nasty boats went out from, and they had a SEAL detachment right there. But he was there when same year I was at CCN.
He's that old?
Huh?
He looks much better than you.
He shaved his head. You've got to be kidding me. Boy, he's like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know. When you quit working out, man, all that muscle mass turns to flat. You've done pretty well for yourself, by the way.
Thank you, but I'm not that quite old yet. So
Yeah, well, you're what, 50?
6, yes sir.
It's a good year for Chevrolets.
Yeah, ain't that right? Yeah. 55, 56, 57. Yeah.
Yeah, the transmission fit in all of them.
Yeah.
From the 54 or 55 through the 62, the same engine and the same transmission. 283 and the standard transmission. I know because I used to steal them.
Yeah.
I used to break into junkyards and tip the suckers up on the side. I had two guys that I knew that we could take a transmission out of a Chevy in under 11 minutes and be gone with it.
Was there a big demand at
Oh,
that
yeah.
time for?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's thinking about a new career right now. He's,
Oh, today you got to have an MIT
how much-
degree to get in there.
I read up a little bit on you guys. You were his coach in college? Is that
Well, basically, I was coaching at Arizona State University at
I
the
thought
time.
it was the other way around.
No. He's the old one.
Oh, this finger pointing a bit old. I don't like that combination.
Well, yeah, okay.
Okay, but no, I was coaching. I'm from earlier when you asked where we're from. I'm from the state of Michigan, born and raised from Michigan, and then went to college at Arizona State. And then upon graduation, I ended up coaching alongside Bobby Douglas. A couple of my younger brothers basically were at a place, and Don shared a room there with at the same household. It was a pigsty. I mean, literally, it was one of those places
I was
that.
born in Highland Park.
Oh, really? This is kind of like we talked about that earlier today. I wouldn't be wearing T-shirts and shorts here in Michigan today. It was going to start off with a nice, cool 25 degrees and warm up to 30,
I can't
35.
believe you're wearing a T-shirt and shorts right now.
But it's because
I'm freezing.
It's because I'm from Michigan and you guys have been out here and
That's
you're
true.
acclimated
Yeah.
to this temperature. I'm still from Michigan right now, so
Tony,
I'm
wanna
good.
Shut off that fan, please.
The funny thing is, I was born in Southern California. He was born in
Detroit.
but he was raised in northern Minnesota where he could spit into Canada. He loves the heat. I hate it.
Oh, Arizona summers are brutal. I mean, when the brochure reads, you're guaranteed 100 days of 100-degree weather or better. Oh, that brochure is right.
Yeah.
And I suffer when it starts moving north of 100.
Oh, me too.
I spent a year with a Bedouin tribe out in the middle of what the Saudis called the empty quarter. testing radio. Well, it actually wasn't a year; it was 9 months, and it was. I got the assignment through punishment, which is how I went through most of my assignments. Punishment. You're going to Ranger School.
How about your brief stint in bad tolls?
Oh, yeah. Well, I came back from Vietnam. I got sent to Bad Tolls, Germany. Right? I'm in my lightweight greens, arrive in Bad Tolls. It's 2 below zero, and it's a howling wind. And they put us up in the transient barracks over the top of the Bad Tolls used to be the SS officer school. And the U.S. Army took it over afterwards. Now it's the 7th Army NCO Academy, and the 10th Special Forces Group Forward Battalion is there. So I'm up in the attic, and at 5 o'clock in the morning, the staff duty NCO comes up and wakes me up. He goes, wake up. And he's got a parka, big heavy Arctic mitts, Mickey Mouse boots, the big rubber boots, insulated boots and that, and a hat, scarf, and all that. And he says, you got a 5-ton license on your records. Get dressed, go down to the motor pool. There'll be somebody there to show you what to do. You're going to draw a snowplow. Okay. So I get dressed. I go down. They issue me a snowplow. And it's a big 5-ton dump truck filled with sand in the back. It's got the big blade with a blower on it with the auger in there, all that. And they drive me out, show me how to whip around. And my job is to come back in. Bad Tolls is built like a quadrangle. It's buildings on all 4 sides with 2 big gates. The main gate coming in and the back gate going out. The back gate goes out to the drop zone, and the front gate goes out on the main highway and that. And it had snowed like the dickens the night before. So there's like 3 foot of snow and all these mounds on one end that I didn't find out till later what they were. And they showed me how to use it. You put the blade down, you're going along, and the heater don't work. Ooh. So I'm scraping the inside of a windshield with a scraper and trying to look out and do the, see what I have to do and that. Got the middle of it all plowed out. And I started working over towards the end. There was they looked like moguls. You know what a mogul is? A ski mogul, the little hill in that. So I took a swing. Well, I had stopped, and I'd gotten a bottle of apple corn, schnapps.
Just to take a little bit off of the...
Because the heater didn't
edge.
work.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm swilling down the apple corn and that. Get over in the corner, and I swing along, and every time they had the whole thing is brick. It's like cobblestones made out of brick, pavers and that, and it's got ice on it, and it growls when you hit ice. So I clink, and I went through one of the moguls, and I kept going out the back gate. I turned the blower on, and the Opel engine shot out the blower. Turns out there had been a 1956 Opel there that the group commander and the group sergeant major had spent 2 years rebuilding, restoring from the frame up. And I swear to God, that blade sawed it like it was a surgical knife. Took the whole front from the back seat was still intact. Everything forward of that was in the grinder. And that. When I turned out the gate, there was 2 guys that were watching me, supposed to be supervising. When the Opel engine came flying out, they took off running and never stopped. So they bring me in, and the commander at that time, I didn't like him.
Nobody liked you.
Nobody liked him, yeah. He's screaming at me. He's going, you people coming from Vietnam, you're all the same. You got to be that, it's got to be that. And I'm sitting there going, all right, there's only one way out of this.
Well, I mean, the car was actually buried in the snow, wasn't it? I mean,
yeah. It was completely covered with snow. I didn't know what it was. It was whatever. I also ran over their cannon, so it was a double entendre.
Yeah, that's probably.
So he's going, I'm gonna send you back to Vietnam. Oh, please, sir, please don't send me back there. I mean, I can't take it. My nerves are shot. I couldn't. That's it. You're out of here. 17 days and 14 hours, and I was out of there. And they had this.
Was that a record? I mean, the way that you're.
It actually was a record. It actually was a record. And all the guys that came in with me are going, "You son of a bitch." Yeah, clever. Yeah. Yeah, his sergeant major used to get dressed up. If you went to his house and he saw you coming, he was in civilian, he'd go change into a uniform. So he'd greet you at the door in a uniform. When he went to Vietnam, his only function was he was the master sergeant at the time, and his job was running the ice cream parlor at group headquarters in the train.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a combat tour there, buddy. Yeah. You're going to impress me when I get back.
Which one was that? Which of the two horrible sergeant majors of Bad Tolls was it?
Pialetti.
Pialetti. Because my personal
I saw the
experience
colonel
with
later,
Hodges-
years later. He showed up at we have a thing called the Special Operations Association that he showed up at the convention. And I went, what are you doing here? And he's looking at me. I said, you don't remember me, do you? I said, you threw me out of Bad Tolls. I got two things to say to you. The Uniform Code of Military Justice does not cover your chicken ass at this point. And number two, if you're still here by nightfall, you're a dead man. And he was gone. Of course, I had Jay Graves with me.
Yeah, well, that helps.
Kept pulling his Derringer out. Want me to shoot him? Did I shoot him?
Jay Graves is a
Was a legend.
interesting legend from the old days in Vietnam of the original Project Delta going back into the early 60s.
Yeah.
He was a wild man. He always had at least 4 guns on him. Always.
Huh. We're in a hotel room in Vegas, one of the conventions and that. And he's always giving me crap, right? I go, yeah, screw you, Graves. And he starts taking his clothes off. Taking his clothes off. Here comes a 40 caliber, then a 45, then a Dactonics, then a 38, then an ankle holster. It gets down to his shorts, where, swear to God, they're silk with little red hearts on them. And he reaches inside and pulls out a Derringer. And I go, what are you doing? He goes, I want everybody to know I was totally unarmed when I whipped your ass. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Jay.
Remember when he got locked in the trunk of the car?
When he what?
When he got locked in the trunk of the car.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that sounds like a volunteer type of operation if you get locked in a trunk of a car.
Oh, yeah, no. You got to remember, Jay was broke by the 10th of every month. Regardless. I mean, he was always broke. He was, he had a Lincoln, and he would take the seats out, dude. 17-way electric seats in that, and he called the insurance company. He goes, that somebody broke into my car down in Boston, stole the seats. But the 4th time that happened, the insurance agent goes, Jay, next time these things get stolen, I don't think they're going to pay you back. Because he'd take the money and then he'd go to the Cape with Keith Kincaid for the weekend and that. But anyway, he owed a bunch of bookies money. And they snatched him outside a bar one night when he was drunk and threw him in the back of his car. And next thing, they slammed it on there laughing. Yeah, you little son of a bitch, you're a tough son of a bitch. The next thing you hear, and a 45 round comes through the trunk of the car, and Jay goes, now you're standing on gravel. The first thing I hear, I'm going to fill full of holes. Open this trunk. Interesting guy.
He's a prominent character in the first couple of chapters.
Yeah.
How many overall chapters are in the
There's
book?
22 stories.
22.
Now, well, there's 22 chapters. I think there's 2 stories that take 2 chapters, and the rest of the chapters are an individual story. The rescue of some kids out
I'm
of
one
Algeria.
of the founding fathers.
The rescue of some kids from Algeria takes 2 chapters. And I think, when we were in Russia, it takes 2 chapters. Those are and the rest are all individual stories. So, yeah, we were in the kidnap recovery business for a while.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I bet.
Never really made much money, but it was very
Had
satisfying
fun, yeah.
to get some kids back that have been kidnapped.
It's a vicious crime when you steal someone's loved one.
Yeah,
And just remember this: get the money from the client while the tears are still wet on their cheeks. 'Cause the minute they get their loved one back, they get amnesia about owing you any money.
Oh yeah, yeah. We got a guy out of China, and he never paid in full. I went up. I was on my motorcycle. I went up to see him, and he's like, "I hope you're not here because you think I still owe you money." And I said, "Well, you do still owe me money, but I'm not going to make a big fucking thing about it, because why?
Yeah.
When he was stuck in China, he would have paid anything, and his wife paid pretty well. So what the hell? And same with the kids. Once the deal's done, they forget about what they might
The
still
fear,
owe.
right, yeah.
But we had some fun doing that.
Yeah.
Some
Let me tell you something. All those people that tell you they're going to help you, like the State Department and that bunch of sissies up there at George Washington U, the only thing they'll give you is the address to the nearest gay bar. That's it. The people that held true were like the Union Course.
The Union Course.
The Corsican mob. They delivered on time. They delivered for the money. They never asked for a penny more than what they asked for in the beginning. And when one of the people screwed us, they actually burned his boat to the water line. As that's not a good idea. This is a friend of ours, a capiche,
Well, And he unfortunately wound up hanging himself.
Yeah.
Or something.
or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Remember the criminal mind never sleeps, and there is such a thing as honor among thieves.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
The Union Course was very good to us.
Not the fucking thieves I met. They're no honor.
Well, there's
they were
assholes.
amateurs. Or you got to talk to the people that've been in the business for
We met a
centuries,
guy. We met a
Smugglers.
guy in the south of France, in Marseille, at the Hotel La Roule, who, at the time, and this was in
Looked like Paul Newman.
1991, I think.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah, he looked exactly like Paul Newman.
Yeah.
Yeah, tan face, blue eyes, good-looking guy. This was in 1991 or 90 or 91, somewhere in that.
cut finger.
Cut finger Joe Bianchi. Yeah. He had allegedly, from what we were told, pulled off the single biggest bank robbery in history when he robbed the British Bank of the Middle East in Beirut, and the biggest kidnapping in history where he'd kidnapped the son of Baron Le Pen. And his nickname, Cut Finger Joe, was because he had cut the son of Baron Le Pen's finger off and sent it to him in the mail, right?
Remember his advice?
So we're sitting at the Hotel La Roule, which is the number 2 rated bouillabaisse restaurant by the Marseille Bouillabaisse Society,
He knows all this.
feeding him
The soup
bouillabaisse.
plate.
And Joe, we had another guy, the guy that had introduced us into the Union Course. His name was Francois, but everybody in Marseille called him Carlos.
Whose female relatives used him as a sex toy when he was a boy.
Yeah.
Strange man.
And
But he is a Mason.
we found Francois through the Masonic Lodge.
Really?
And he was about 6'4", 230 maybe.
Kabili. Curly hair.
He had really serious calluses on all of his knuckles, right? So I said, Francois, are you a martial artist? And he goes, no, not really. I said, well, I was just looking at all the calluses. He says, well, I was in a parking garage, and I hit this guy with everything I had, and he didn't go down. I said, oh my God, what is wrong with me? He didn't go down. So from then on, I've spent at least 1 hour every day
Hitting a
punching wood.
Wow.
Rope
Wow.
wrapped around.
Okay. But Francois introduced us to Joe. But Francois had a solid gold Cartier tank watch.
And Joe kept
we're
eyeballing.
sitting at the table talking with Joe and he keeps looking over and admiring Francois' watch. And every time he did, Francois' finger would start twitching uncontrollably. But anyway, he says to us, well, one thing I must tell you, if you are going to be a successful kidnapper, because he didn't really quite understand what we were doing. We were trying to get
We were
back
trying to rescue.
two
and
kids
he
that
thought
had
we were trying
been
to kidnap
kidnapped.
somebody.
We're not kidnapped. We're trying to rescue two kids that have already been kidnapped, but it didn't quite
Translate.
anyway. So he said, well, if you are going to be a successful kidnapper, let me tell you this. If you cut the finger off of your victim, send it Federal Express.
Do not use the mail.
Don't use the regular mail because it takes so long. It gets all rotten and disgusting. That's valuable information, Joe.
Write it
We're
down, man.
happy to know that. But we don't think you quite understand where we're coming from, but we really loved meeting you, and hey, the lunch is on us.
He's a great guy. I love him. So, but see, you always run into people like that. That was I guess the theme of our lives was that we'd fall into a benjo pit, and we'd come out the other side poorer, sometimes richer, but always enriched by the people that we met.
Right.
It's like tonight. I mean, who knows? I mean,
like
we've
tonight.
driven through a fucking cow pasture to get here. Who knows what it could happen?
Who knows? He may meet a bull.
I'm telling you, who he reminds me of is Carl.
Yeah, kind of.
Carl
but I was
Tamez.
thinking Davidson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Carl Tamez, who spent most of his adult life in prison. He was the only white guy, well, Mexican, on a chain gang in Georgia, all black.
Yeah.
And Carl was a piece of work.
Oh, yeah.
Carl was the only guy I know that could walk into it. We broke down on the freeway in Watts and pulled off the freeway, and the first place we ran into was an all-black biker bar. And I pulled up, went inside, and there's a payphone there. He goes, get on the payphone, call my brother, tell him his car's broken. And he goes inside. I go back, I call his brother, say, come pick us up. I walk inside, and Carl's sitting at the bar, and everybody else is over in the corner, huddled, cowered in the corner and that. And Carl's going, jeez, who let all these in here? and the bartender's going, I don't want no trouble. I know you're carrying. I know you got to be armed to be in here like that. Carl was a piece of work. Dude, look, you're built like him, too.
Yeah.
Well,
He was
it's
built
like
just
it's kind of
like
comical
you.
that you
Like a Roman legionnaire.
You talk about Don being involved in like a convict type of looking. He actually played in a movie as a prisoner,
That's right.
a convict with alongside
Rob Schneider.
Yeah, Rob Schneider. What was the name of the movie?
Big Stan.
Big
yeah.
Stan.
Big Stan. Was
Yeah,
fun.
he actually was in that.
It was a fun movie, man. Met some good people in that movie.
Comedian.
Well, I was actually a technical advisor on the TV show China Beach.
Really?
Stop with me.
Or something like that. I mean,
Jesus.
I was there.
He was trying to date Dana.
I was
whatever her
trying to
name
date
was.
Dana.
I wanted to too. Then
I was
dress up my dress greens to drive him up there in a limo that he had gotten, and he put in Colonel's emblem on the bumper.
I
and
see.
that.
He's moving up his rank here real quickly.
I was working in a gun store in in Lake Forest, California,
Taking a bath, in
and
a
I
mud
was
pile.
bored out of my mind. So I thought nothing was happening because we went through long periods of time of nothing before something would pop up. you know.
Thinking about working for the post office.
I mean, that little skinny book covers 40 years. So anyway, I said, I got to think, what do I want to do? I got to do something challenging. I got to give myself a challenge and see if I can do it. And I'd been watching this TV show, China Beach, and I thought Dana Delaney was like super hot.
Yeah,
and
I
I
did
like,
too, yeah.
okay, she's somewhere here in the Los Angeles area. I'm here in the Los Angeles area. There's got to be some kind of way to meet this chick and get to know her. I just have to figure out exactly what the pathway is. So I started plotting and scheming, right? And I wind up at freaking Warner Brothers. I met I started by meeting two interns that were working on the show trying to be writers and convincing them that I knew all kinds of stuff. And I had all kinds of friends who were like experts on Vietnam and shit, and I'll bring them in here. And they wound up calling me back and saying they needed some real Vietnamese gold for one of the series. And if I could bring some real Vietnamese gold, I could come up to the ranch up north of LA where they were filming, and, they welcomed me with open arms. So I'm like, and where did I borrow the Vietnamese gold?
Only I wouldn't give him it, so he took me along.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I had at that time.
Well,
I
you
had
wanted to see
I had
Dana
a
Delaney, too.
5-ounce chain of
He had
Thai
a
gold
5-ounce bot chain with a MacV SOG emblem hanging from it. Right?
and
So
an emblem that said "fuck peace."
there is actually a episode of China Beach where the guy Dodger, Jeff Kober, is supposedly looking for gold. And he comes back and he meets with Dana Delaney and he opens his hand and Nick's bot chain falls out, right? So I got it that far, right? And then I did this whole thing where I was a government somebody important with a limousine with flags on the fenders and a driver in full mufti. And
I went along. The caterer on that job was awesome.
The interesting thing is, one of those two interns that I originally met is now one of the most powerful producers in Hollywood.
Cool.
Her name's Tony Graffia. And you ever see that show Outlander?
Yeah.
About the chick that goes through the stones to ancient Scotland? That's her show.
Oh,
She wrote it, she produced it, she owned it. So she's like a big deal now. And she was one of the two interns. In fact, I helped her write her second published teleplay that was an episode of China Beach.
Well, be interested to see if she remembers you now.
Oh, probably not. She'd remember me, whether she'd admit it or not. That's the question.
Before you run there, I want to talk about where can they find this book? I mean, because we're talking about book with all the different stories.
The book is on Amazon. It's on Barnes and Noble. It's on pretty much every bookseller there is. It's easy to find.
Okay, I just want to make sure before, because I do that.
Yeah. And as far as the whiskey, you can go to Toxic Masculinity Whiskey.
Over 50 plumbing system.
And
trust me,
you can order it.
It waits for nobody.
We can legally ship to 31 states. There's a liquor.
Yeah, we were making fun of you.
I know you were.
Hey, cool. Yeah, Thai gold.
A liquor retailer in San Diego, California called Country Wine and Spirits.
It's about
that can actually ship to more
probably
states than we can.
Is that a 3-bot?
So you
I
can
don't
buy it
know.
off our website, or
buddy-
you can go to their website. It's available.
Old boy
in a lot
named
of
Larry
places.
Taylor. He was
yeah.
in Vietnam, and then he get
This is Thai gold. You know, Thai gold, that's about
22
that's
carats.
3 ounce.
Let's see.
yeah.
Yeah,
He was a
Three bob.
soldier in Nam. Then the CIA recruited him. He went to work for CIA.
I know a criminal, oddly enough, on the East Coast that collects. He's got a $3 million knife collection, and you got to love. He's in the book. Chet has bought just about everybody's gold over the years. You got about half of mine that I
That's a
came
nice
back
buy.
with, and everybody
I
else.
could have used that when I was ingratiating myself.
Well, you know why
with
guys
trying to
want
be-
this? Skate
what?
money. Skate money. I've carried gold all my life for just that purpose. You get in some third world country, gold, everybody knows it. You
Right,
can get a camel, you can get a woman, you can get an AK-47, you can get a flight out of the country.
Right.
You got gold. Don't depend on the State Department because they won't give you anything.
That's for sure.
Yeah, I gotta get this thing fixed.
There's a
fixed.
couple-
Hang on to that, brother. That's,
There's a
that's,
couple-
that's history there.
I gotta get it fixed.
You know
It's
the
coming back
the
from-
Buddha goes in your mouth
Yeah.
when shit
Yeah.
got it around your neck when the shit hits the fan. Oh, sorry, I should not use that.
That
when the
might-
feces hits the Westinghouse.
Yeah. That
put it
might
in
be
your mouth.
Cambodian gold, actually. It could be Thai, but it could also be Cambodian. Because
might
the
be Cambodian,
Cambodians
yeah.
used to put the Buddha in their mouth to protect themselves from bullets.
Yeah.
I used to put the Buddha in my mouth to protect the gold from my friend.
Yeah, I was coming back from California one time, from LA, and had a heart attack driving down the road. I must have grabbed, I lost the real Buddha, the Buddha that he had in Nam. I lost that. So this is a replacement Buddha. But yeah, I got to get this thing fixed.
Well, the Buddhas, I work with Montagnards, the hill tribes. And,
Yeah.
and they didn't use a lot. Well, they were Buddhist kind of, but they were more animists. They had spirits in the stream, and the tree had a spirit. There was the monkey spirit, and there was, spirits. They were animists. And they wouldn't use the Buddha so much as the Cambodians and the Vietnamese would. Because the Vietnamese and the Cambodians would carry a little ivory Buddha
Yeah.
in a gold cage, and somebody fire a shot, everybody start popping them in their mouth. Going, oh, okay. You know who to search when they're dead.
That's right.
I love his voice. I love his voice.
You two are
We could have been pals.
disconcertingly similar. I'm having a hard time dealing with how similar you two are. On the other hand, down at this end of the table, we have the sophisticated,
That's right.
more mature group.
I don't know how sophisticated, but
More
yeah.
mature. That was a questionable too.
Well, we've
Well,
all we've all had our moments. We've all had our moments.
I knew an Apache, full-blooded Chiricahua, that married one of America's most preeminent anthropologists, anthropologists, and that could recite the Song of Roland in the archaic French, and was the most nasty, evil killing machine you ever met in your life. So,
The
the book,
Apache or the woman?
the Apache.
Yeah, okay.
Edie was
The woman
Edie
was worse.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I knew where
Don was going with this. I knew where Don was going with on this one.
So what, you were at the University of Arizona, or
Arizona
Oh,
State.
hey.
Tip.
Hey. Cut him off. Cut him off.
what is that? U of A?
Hey, my
They like the
sister
Aggies or what?
matriculated from the University of Arizona.
Oh, geez.
Well, it's kind of like the interstate rivalry. You've always been
Where's
University of
Arizona
Arizona,
State at?
Tempe, Arizona.
Tempe.
Tempe.
Yeah,
And where
Tempe.
is U of A?
Right at Tucson.
Tucson.
Well, that's where we met all those really blonde chicks with the big tits,
Yes.
and they were
There
all
are-
Republicans.
There is
We went to a Trump rally,
Yeah.
and there was all these really good-looking young co-eds, blonde. They all looked alike. They were like Barbie dolls, one after the other, and they were all medical students. And what was the other?
business.
Business.
Yeah.
And they all staunch conservatives, all that. Some of them were wearing Trump capes.
There were
at the
guys too, but he didn't notice that.
No. Well, yeah, Trump, I'll tell you what, Trump could pull the good looking
I'm
women.
here for the
know?
kids, Here for the kids. Trying to stay with that program.
I actually met Donald Trump.
Did you?
Yeah. I was in New York with a guy that's in the book by the name of Cosmo. That's not his real name.
Kramer.
No. This we called him Cosmo because he's such a little prick.
But anyway, we were in New York, and I don't remember where we were staying, but we said Trump had just bought one of the big hotels. I don't even remember which one, but he just purchased one, and it was in the news that Trump had bought it. So he said, let's go over there and check it out. So we went over and we went to the bar. It was late at night. There was only about 8 people in the bar. I think we were the only, maybe 2 out of 3 people sitting at the bar, and then there was a couple of people at booths, you know. And we're sitting there having a scotch, and in walks Donald Trump. And he walks over to where we are, and he's like, are you guys guests at the hotel? And we said, no, we just came over to take a look at the place. And he said, well, what do you think? And we said, well, we think it's a really nice place. Maybe the next time we come to New York, we'll be guests here.
So wait.
He didn't have like no entourage. He's just by himself.
Just by himself. It was about 11 o'clock at night.
When was this, though?
God, it was a long time ago. It was it definitely wasn't in this century.
No.
It was sometime in the 1990s. I the Trump Palace or something like that.
Right.
But he was
Trump Castle.
He was a very personable guy.
Yeah.
I thought he was a really nice guy.
In the construction
And when he
industry.
started running for president, and everybody was like, oh, he's a freaking monster. Right. I said, well, I met him, and I thought he was a very personal guy. Oh, my God, what's wrong with you? From my California friends.
Yeah, right.
But I thought he was a very personable
These
guy.
are the fuckers that only read the headlines.
Yeah.
And don't read
In
anything
the
else.
book here, we met a young lieutenant colonel
Oh,
in
yeah.
Russia that we were at the KGB Officers Club in Moscow, and it's built on tiers. You know, the generals are up here, and you go all the way down. At the bottom end is the militia, which are the cops in Russia. They don't have a gendarmerie or police force. The militia fills that role. And we met a young lieutenant colonel who spoke like 6 languages and that. Everybody, we were with a major general from the KGB who would invite us. We were his guests. And everybody treated this guy with a lot of deference in that. Had we known who he was going to be, we'd have got to know him a lot better.
Yeah.
Very, very personable man.
Really.
His name was Vladimir Putin, if you haven't already figured that out.
I was getting ready to say it's okay.
Yeah, Lieutenant Colonel Putin. But even General Morozov, I mean, he was a general to a lieutenant colonel, but he treated him.
With respect.
We were
respect.
also there with the internal, the deputy, what was it called? Guy from he was Kazakhstan. He's now the interior.
Bulat Yanasayev.
Yeah.
I actually brought him over to the States and threw a huge dinner party at a restaurant in Georgetown in Washington, D.C.
1767.
It was a number. 1718 or something. I don't even remember the number. Yeah. But it was a really upscale restaurant. We had our own private room. I had my own special menus printed and everything. I had the people from Chevron and Exxon and Shell there. And we put on this dinner and basically created the independent petroleum industry in Kazakhstan right after they broke away from the Soviet Union.
Really?
Yeah.
But
And
when
unlike
we went-
Hunter
when we
Biden,
went
I
to the
never saw a
Soviet Union,
frickin' penny.
The only people going to the Soviet Union at that time were con men and lawyers.
Right.
We weren't in that group. We had gone over there. We were working for a aluminum mining concern out of London that had verticalized their market. They made a deal with the mines. They made a deal with the refineries. Hello. They made a deal with the, all the way out to the ports. It was so screwed up. Like if you want to mine aluminum, you mine the bauxite, you ship it by rail car, to a refinery, who then turns it into aluminum. But you have to make a deal with not only the railroad to take it to the refinery, you have to make a deal with the people who own the boxcars that haul it. And then the marshaling yard, both at the beginning and at the end. And it was this really complicated method. That's how we eventually got to meet Morozov, and that was they were the fixers. When the Soviet Union collapsed, the KGB no longer had a function because they belonged to the Communist Party. The Communist Party's out of control. They no longer have the control, so they don't have a job yet. They own industries, they own cities, they own all the concessions for the mining, they own their own secret ports, they have their own Spetsnaz, their own Navy, their own military, all that belongs to the KGB. So they were looking for a way to make this all happen. Now they call them the Slivovaki, which is the KGB functionaries that eventually became an oligarchy within Russia's political system. So we're there. We're in the early days. We're a couple of senior NCOs that have found a nice little niche with a couple of mining companies that want to do a program over there. So we're over there. It's kind of like the Wild Wild West at that time, and we get to meet all these people. So Nazarbayev, who's like the number 2 man under, what's his name, the guy that's in charge of Kazakhstan.
Bulat.
Not Bulat was the interior minister. He's still the interior minister, but anyway, his best buddy is a guy named Rustam Karbayez. And Rustam, they'd both been KGB officers. When Rustam was in charge of all the Spetsnaz, the special forces in Afghanistan, Bulat had been his commanding officer. He was a lieutenant general, and Rustam was a brigadier general. And Rustam had, the Soviets operated different than us. You know, like we'd go in, like in special projects, we'd set up patrol area and we'd go in, do all this stuff, set up raids, ambushes, and operations. They operated off the hilltops. They would go in and seize a mountaintop, and they'd use that as a patrol base, and they'd spread out from there. So they got this incident where they have a Spetsnaz company that's besieged on top of a mountain by the Mujahideen, and they're getting hammered. And Rustam comes in as a command and control helicopter and is trying to supervise the battle, and he lands on top of the mountaintop, and he's got the political officer, the commissar for the region with him, and the chopper gets shot down on short final. So the chopper's on the ground, they're on the ground. So he's calling in airstrikes all night. Next morning, they're getting ready to pull out, and they're taking all the wounded out first. And we're in a nightclub with these 2 guys in Alma-Ata, where all the TV stars and all that hang out, and that, and we're drinking some vodka, getting pretty hammered and that.
And fermented mare's milk. Which is very
milk.
salty, interesting.
and very refreshing at the time. And the commissar, the next morning, they're taking all the wounded out. Now, he's on the ground with a brigadier general who's in charge of the Spetsnaz. It's a Spetsnaz team there. And the commissar, the political commissar, gets on the helicopter when it comes in to pick up the wounded. And he goes, I have to go out with the wounded. And he goes, no, the wounded are going out. There's only so much weight, and you're excess weight. And the guy goes, no, if I have to go out because if they capture me, the entire Soviet regime will fall. And he goes, you're a political officer. Just like what are they going to learn? Where Lenin's tomb is? And the guy won't get off the helicopter. He goes, only the wounded are going. And the guy goes, I'm not getting off. So he pulls out his Markov and shoots him in the kneecap. Goes, now you're wounded. Now you can leave.
Oh, wow.
So they're on. The four of us are laughing about it, right? And then we start going. And he goes, he pulls his shirt off. He goes, I got shot here by fragments from a Stinger missile that was shot at my helicopter. And I got wounded here. And I pulled my pants down. And I go, I got shot here by an AK that was made in Russia, wielded by a North Vietnamese in 1968. And we're doing. We look over, in the other end of the bar are all these TV personalities from the Kazakh TV programs are going like that, looking at it. It was a good time. Yeah. But it was a different attitude then. It was a different atmosphere.
Yeah.
And of course, the American cop that was there doing the TV program about cops in Moscow.
We spent a night in a KGB steam bath in
St.
Petersburg. And by the end of the night, all the KGB agents were up against one wall like this. We scared the crap out of them.
Well, they're going, we're taking pictures. Good. Get a shot of that.
That fighter from in the UFC who retired. Where was he from? The tough guy.
Khabib?
Khabib, yeah.
I couldn't tell you right offhand what part of Russia. I just know that he's.
Remember Steve Seagal and his bodyguard?
He's a very good friend of Steve Seagal's, by the way.
No fucking way.
Oh, yeah. I've known him for years.
Oh, jeez.
And A, he was not a SEAL.
B, he was not in the CIA.
A, he was not in the CIA.
He's insane.
Well, yeah. He's a good guy, though. You know,
you
whatever
would never
you hear,
guess that.
I know a different guy. I know a guy who's a very accomplished jazz musician who used to go down to the hospices with veterans and actually write letters for them and that.
Really?
And was very involved in
That's the
finding
you do.
that I know.
Okay.
That was very involved with disclosing the sex trade of using minors in Southeast Asia.
Really?
Yeah. Different guy than what you hear and see on
that
TV.
guy I respect, the one you're talking about.
That's the one I respect too. Yeah. But he had a bodyguard that I met that was on the most wanted list for the Balkans, for the Balkan wars and that. Going, hey, I know that guy from somewhere. Different guy.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't like him because they consider him bullshit. As not being a martial artist, as not being this, not being that. The guy I know had a good heart. What more can you say?
No, you're right. No, that's I didn't know anything about that.
Remember the trial
Besides
of
the
Billy,
point.
the trial of Billy Jack,
Prost.
the guy that did all the martial arts stunts, and that was a guy named Bong Soo-han.
Yeah.
I once helped Bong Soo-han. He and I threw a drunk out of a bar up on Santa Monica Boulevard together. I had this friend, Dr. Paul Chung. He was the head of the U.S. Korean Navy Cooperation League. And he used to come over, and he'd always stay in Little Korea. I went out with him one day, and when he was staying in Little Korea, we're going to go down to this bar and meet a really close friend of mine. And his really close friend was Bong Soo-han,
No. Are you
the founder of Hwarang Do, and the guy that did all the stunts for Tom Laughlin in the Billy Jack movies. And he was a really, really nice guy, but we're in this bar up on Santa Monica Boulevard, and some drunk starts fucking running around the bar, picking fights and screaming and shouting obscenities and acting like a complete asshole. And I said, well, you know, what do you think we ought to do? And he said, well, we need to get this guy out of here. And I said, I'm on. And the two of us went and grabbed this son of a bitch and threw him out on the Santa Monica Boulevard. It was fun. But that's my...
That's one of 80.
That's my movie star martial arts story.
Now, Don's the movie star here amongst us.
Yeah. Oh, come on, Dan.
Well, you know, I grew up in Newport Beach, California, and I lived at the Balboa Bay Club.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean...
Tell them how you met John Wayne.
This is a great...
Oh, yeah.
John Wayne was a
You're
very
holding
good...
out on me?
There's the classic.
yeah.
You're holding out on me?
John Wayne was a very good friend of mine.
Yeah.
Very good friend. And here's how...
Oh, shit.
Yeah. You'll love this.
We lived in a little guarded community in Newport Beach called Bay Shores when I was in my late teens. And my brother and I, my brother's a little younger than me, and we were very good friends with two little boys.
His name is Spanky.
Yeah, we called him, well, his name was Jim, but we called him Spanky because he looked exactly like Spanky McFarlane.
He does.
But
we took him to Mexico.
now, hey, let me tell my story first. All right? Anyway, so the Gates, their father, who was a big game hunter, and their whole house was full of stuffed heads and elephant tusks and crap like that.
Trophies all over the walls.
Oh,
yes.
He decided to move to Palm Springs, so they moved out. And the rumors started in the neighborhood that a big movie star was buying their house. Well, the big movie star turned out to be John Wayne. And it wasn't directly across the street from us, but it was like at a 30-degree angle. Okay, it was very close to being across the street. Well, at the time, I had a 1930 Model A Ford that I'd built from parts.
Yeah.
And it was bright canary yellow with black fenders. It was like totally cool with a rumble seat. So one day I'm coming down Bayshore Drive, which had speed bumps. And I'm speeding because I'm 17.
That's right.
And when you're 17, you speed.
That's what you do.
So I'm going about twice the posted speed limit, and I hit the speed bump there right by the little beach, and my
Fender fall
left
off.
front tire, my left front wheel breaks loose. The car falls down onto the speed bump on its axle, and
This
the
is not
tire
first
rolls.
time it's done this.
The tire rolls down the street, up the driveway, into the garage of the Gates house, okay? And hits the side of a station wagon that's parked in there and then goes and falls flat. So I'm like, oh, my God. I'm a 17-year-old kid, right? I'm like, oh, my God, what am I going to do? So I go up. I didn't want to go in the garage uninvited and get my wheel back. So I go up and knock on the front door. And who answers the front door? John Wayne.
Yeah.
Because that's who's bought the house. And I'm like, sir,
Get my tire
I'd
back.
like to know if I could have your permission to go in your garage and get my wheel. He's like, what's that? I said, the wheel of my car is in your garage, and I'd like to know if I could have your permission to go get it. So he walks out with me, and we walk around, and there's my wheel. Unfortunately, it hadn't done any damage to the side of his car because he had a special built Mercury station wagon with a 2-inch raise in the roof to make it easy for him to drive.
Right.
So I get I run back over to my house, which is almost right across the street, and get my brother and my toolbox, and we come back to put the wheel back on. And the whole time he stands out there with us, he goes, who are you boys? What do you do? A lot of questions. So we get the wheel, we jack it up and get the wheel reattached and drive it back around into the alley, into the garage so that I can finish fixing it, And after that, he knows us. So we see, and he's on the board of governors of the Balboa Bay Club, as is my father. So they have these black tie board of governors meetings about every 3 months, right? And we always see him. And I remember one time we're in the men's room at the Shell Bar, and there's a board of governors meeting comes on. John Wayne walks into the men's room, and he's got his tuxedo. He's messing around with his tie, and he's like, let me tell you something, boys. Never do anything in life where you have to wear one of these goddamn monkey suits. So I just got to know him because he was a neighbor, So then I went in the Army, and I went in Special Forces. Well, while I was going through Special Forces training group, he was making the movie, The Green Berets. In fact, I had just gotten to the 6th Special Forces group out of training group when we were marched down to the theater in Fayetteville, North Carolina to all attend the premiere of the movie because it premiered in Fayetteville. Right. So I got leave. And when I graduated from Special Forces Training Group, I got leave and I went home to Newport, and I thought I'll go over and see John Wayne. And I went over to his house and I knocked on the door, and a woman, Hispanic woman maid, answered the door.
Chica.
And I said, I'm looking for Mr. Wayne, and she said, well, he's out on his boat. Well, I knew where the Wild Goose was birthed. It was over around by the cannery, just not too far from the American Legion. So I drove around over there, and I went in the parking lot, and the slip was empty. And I remember it was low tide because the thing down to the slip was super steep. I walked down there, and I paced around a little bit, and I'm like, well, crap, I missed him. Yeah. And I'm, leaving, going back to Fort Bragg. And I walked up the really steep gangway back up to the parking lot. And just as I got to the top, I looked down and I see the nose of his boat coming around down by the American Legion up the channel, right? So I waited. And I was in my greens. I had my dress greens on. I had my green beret. I had my spit shine jump boots, And I waited until they came in. And so as they started to come into the slip, I walked back down the gangplank onto the dock, and I stood there. And before the Wild Goose was even fully in the slip, he jumped off, and he comes out, and he looks down at me and goes, well, you made it, did you? And I said, yes, sir, I did. And he said, well, I have to hear everything about this. Come on board. So I went on the Wild Goose, and he had the captain take it back out, and we cruised around the bay for about an hour and a half while I told him all about training group and everything I'd done and what I'd learned and blah, 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 and where I thought I might be going from here, yada, yada, yada. And by the next time I got back to Newport Beach, he was gone.
All right.
So that was the last time I ever saw him.
Give a shot of reality here. We went to, what was the name of that yacht brokerage in Newport?
Oh yeah.
We drive up there. He owns a Pinto station wagon.
Yeah.
With the headliner is falling down. We drive up there. We're both in suits. We're in the afternoon. He goes, hey, let's go down. Let's look at yachts.
They give you free champagne.
Free champagne.
You may not want to see them. Let them see.
Oh, we're going to go down. Okay. We got, good suits, looking good. We drive in the parking lot, park the fucking Pinto over in the back and that. Go in, and the yacht salesman's there. And he's, we're thinking of buying a yacht for the corporation. We're looking nothing under 100 feet. So we go down. He's showing us the yachts there. take us out on a cruise around.
Hot girls are giving us
Hot
champagne.
girls giving us, the champagne and all that. We get done, walk back out, and the guy's like, oh, yeah, I know these two guys are really going to buy this one. Walk out in the parking lot and get into a Pinto station wagon and drive off. So, we were well known in Newport.
Oh, yeah. They
John
knew us.
Wayne and the yacht sale. All right, Miller. We've bored
Yeah, I
these
think
people
we've
long
about
enough.
exhausted our welcome here.
No, Miller, you gotta go in there and take a piss.
We don't pee until 5 in the morning.
Oh, isn't that sweet? Well, go in there.
because-
Go in the bathroom, wash your grubby hands.
I only pee at night.
Wait a minute.
3
There's
or
something
4
in the
or 5
bathroom, Miller.
times.
There's something in the bathroom.
Oh,
I think
God,
it's a
there-
raptor.
Go in there, wash your grubby hands.
He's got
Yeah.
a little bit of a shrine
No,
in there. You might
they
appreciate.
didn't offer it to me, so they know that I'm
Yeah.
wise to
Yeah,
them.
well, yeah, you're.
Come on, Miller, go to the toilet.
I don't have to go. What do you?
Go wash your
I
hands. Go
gotta
see
go
what's.
force
go.
myself.
Oh, fuck shit.
Go see what's there, Miller.
He just
Come
wants
on.
you to go in adored.
You want me to go to the bathroom? I hope to God it isn't because he's going to follow me in.
Oh, my God.
I think we could be friends. I really do.
You know?
Maybe just a tad.
Yeah.
I'm driving.
Oh, good. Good.
Here's the rest of the ice.
What ice?
The one that's in this green bowl.
The half,
Well, I
the
don't
half
need
cube.
any fucking ice.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't need any friggin' ice. Well, we'll have to bring some rye.
They
next
did
time.
say they could edit this, so.
Yeah, I'm disappointed in you all. You only brought one bottle. Shit.
Yeah.
Must have
You're
thought
right. Him and I could be twins.
You must have thought you were dealing with an amateur. Or something.
And no, we had no suspicion in that direction. Well, after all, the other half is a college professor.
I'm writing my thesis over here. Yes.
You know what I love?
He sleeps in a
Ron
tweed
White.
jacket. Huh?
My favorite comedian is Ron White.
Yeah, he's funny.
Blue
My
collar,
favorite
blue collar
comedian is
network.
I
Louis
don't-
C.K.
I don't know how many. I don't know how many bouncers they were. It would take to
use.
throw me out of the place, but I knew how many they were going to use.
Yeah.
It's always a good number to start with.
It's-
And he owns a bulldog,
That's right, he does.
several.
Yeah.
All right. Well, have we bored these poor men?
Who's going to
enough?
show us the way to the pavement?
Yeah. How do we get back to a
I'll
pave-
show you.
The shortest.
You're going to drive?
I'll drive.
This is going to be good.
This
All
ought to be
right.
good.
All right, lads.
Let me
Welcome
have
aboard.
Let me have another drink.
Welcome
for-
aboard.
Yeah, make sure you know how to start the truck.
Is that your dually out there? Oh,
Yes,
we're
sir.
right behind you. That'll be convenient.
Yeah. Well, say goodbye, Mr. Severn.
Would you ever actually make it down into the town?
Yes, sir. Occasionally.
You got to come. Most Friday nights, we can be found at the Parish.
Parish.
It's right on Oracle, just above Orange Grove.
They make
it's
gumbo.
it's a Cajun
You have to
bar.
believe.
Is it near Putney's?
Putney's.
I don't know.
Putney's
What
Bar
is
and
that?
Grill?
No, I don't know where that is.
It's before Putney's.
The Cajun is right at Oracle and Orange Grove.
Which corner?
You know, these two guys over here look like those
northwest.
Texans that were involved in the meth.
And it's a Cajun
ago.
bar. They have incredible Cajun food, and they make fantastic cocktails.
At least they had a switchblade.
I'm addicted to their Sazeracs. So
You
What's the Sazerac?
Anisette.
Sazerac is the official cocktail of New Orleans,
Oh,
Anisette.
voted as such by the New
You
Orleans
wash the
City
glass
Council.
with anisette. Anisette
It's-
is made from wormwood.
right.
You
It's
take,
a-
It's a hallucinogen.
a little bit of
Well,
sugar
the French say.
with some
People in
Peychaud
our
bitters,
profession,
which is a
that of
bitters
the
made in
crazies,
New Orleans,
say it's a sedative,
and some Angostura bitters. Muddle it
but
around.
it's good.
Add some rye whiskey, and then you
Been a
stir that with
pleasurable
ice.
evening.
And then you
Yes,
take
sir. Thank
another
you.
glass and you wash
Very nice,
the
thank
inside of it with absinthe.
Sorry I didn't enjoy a
just got
cigar with
thin
you, but
coating of absinthe.
okay.
I'm off that.
And then you strain
while.
the rye.
You're a better
and
man than me
bitters
because
mixture
I couldn't
into
I
have,
know.
glass.
I could have shrugged
This
it
is
off.
I'm starting to have
beverage
kidney
you said
problems.
Louisiana.
So I
It's from
decided to dump this tobacco.
The original Sazerac was made with cognac back when Louisiana belonged to the French.
Back when people were educated and refined.
And when Napoleon sold the Louisiana Purchase to Thomas Jefferson, they couldn't get cognac anymore, so they started making it with
you might want to turn
Pennsylvania
off
rye
the
whiskey.
recorder during this portion. It's
And
It's a little,
Uh,
little
classified.
hard.
my favorite, I love them. I just love them. And the parish, I've only found 2 places in Tucson that make a decent Sazerac. One of them is the parish at the corner of Oracle and Orange Grove, and the other one is Scott and Company right downtown on Scott Street. But there's no freaking parking down there, so I go to the parish.
Have you ever read W.E.B. Griffith?
Oh, he
Well,
knows him very well.
I know.
They're friends.
William E. Butterfield
William E. Butterworth.
is his real name.
Oh, really?
He used to live 2 houses from me in Daphne, Alabama, and he used to go to the American Legion right down the road from me. And that his son used to be the publisher and editor of Boy's Life for years. And
And
they
his
started
son
writing
is now the one writing the books.
now writing the books. Now. I know Webb Griffin. Really, we've gotten so drunk together. We're like you and me, 2 peas in the pod.
Because he speaks about that the drink in his
Yeah,
book.
he does talk about
No,
the
his
Sazerac.
series about the Marine Corps and about Special Forces and
Yeah,
about the
right.
cops and that
Well,
are all very well written.
Yeah, oh,
because
yeah.
he lives that life. He had been in that life early on, and then wrote about it later.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I love his
William.
books
He's a good
about
man.
Argentina.
Yeah.
He lives there now.
'Cause
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah, he lives in
I
Argentina.
lives in Argentina. The last book about him meeting the woman, God, I'm trying to think of the
Carlos Hancock. Or,
name. He lives that life now with his Argentine wife.
really? Wow, that's great.
When I
He's
was
a
in
cool guy.
Kuwait, right after Desert Storm, I became friends with one of the sons of the richest family in Argentina.
Oh,
His
the
name
guy
was
with the- guy
Jose
with the Cuban
Felix
cigar.
Uriburu French.
They own the beef.
And Jose Felix's brother was the ambassador to all the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, which includes Kuwait, from Argentina. And Jose Felix came over right after the war, the Desert Storm War, to sell beef to the Kuwaitis. And he and I became best friends. And then later I went to Argentina and I met up with him there. And he took me to a restaurant that only sells the beef raised on his ranchos, which was absolutely freaking incredible. So I love the W.E.B. Griffith books about the guy from Argentina who came to Texas and then became a special forces guy. It's
Mother's was German.
yeah.
His father died
I
in a
love
helicopter
that
in
because I've
Vietnam.
got just a little bit of
Well, you have to
ability
remember
to
that
relate.
we've been around for
Yeah, that's true.
862 years.
You had to read a book or two. Yeah.
By the way, you and I have something in common.
Uh-oh.
We have the same nickname.
Dumbass?
If you read that book,
You knew that was coming.
My-
Beast.
Don't ever serve that
The
up. for-
Beast.
if you read the book, my nickname is the Beast. This is my coin from the 10th Special Forces Group. Look at the backside.
Bring those glasses over here, will you?
It is. Okay, well, do go on. I would like to hear the story.
I got
Gave
that
him that
because
name.
I'm actually a werewolf. I was born in 1356 in a small village on the border of Wales and Mercia. And when I was 14, I was out on the moors and I was bitten by a wolf.
And you're sitting there laughing, and it's the truth.
I think that was Mr. Frye who was laughing. Not me.
So
He was enthralled.
I started to be called the Beast, and it stuck. And if you look, when you read the book, through most of the book, I'm called the Beast.
Yeah.
So when I tell you, you're
See,
Well,
you're
again,
still young
that
enough
actually was given to me
to
by
go
the
somewhere
legendary
and do
NFL Hall of Famer, Jim Brown.
really.
Yeah, so literally he was one of the play-by-play
You're still young
commentators,
enough to go
for the
somewhere.
Ultimate Fighting
and do
Championships at one
something.
point in time because they want to have a tough commentator also make comments. So when he first met me, he's like, well, Dan, when I
Never
first
know.
met you, I didn't think that much about you because I was the only guy that showed
like
up
to.
wearing a sports
That's our-
jacket, a tie,
our
wearing
theme is one more
glasses. Everybody
great
thought I was
adventure.
somebody's manager until it was time to stand up,
Like
or sit up at the
Ragnarok.
podium there with the back of the 8-man tournament.
Surrounded by the
eight
Well, from
participants.
bodies
Beast
of
to
your
another.
dead enemy,
Well, no, very
sitting
good.
on them as a throne.
Compadre. I love it.
Oh yeah, it works out perfect.
Yin and Yangs have met up here once again.
All right, Miller, you've eaten up these people's time
Yeah.
and their energy, and
All right. Yeah,
been a pleasure.
we got to try to find our way back to Tucson now.
Well, okay.
oh, we got to sign the book.
Oh yeah, we'll sign the book.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Put one last. One last time. Put one more plug there for where they can find this book. Not only just this one book, but you said you guys have got a couple more books as well. Are they also available on Amazon and
yeah.
Amazon. Yeah.
We Few and Whispers in the Tall Grass are available on Amazon. They're available on Barnes and Noble. And Vagabonds is
Because, like,
available.
Don and Friday, when we first started the podcast, it was kind of like a lot of people thought we were going to be in the niche market of just doing MMA stuff. And like, no, we want to be in MMA stuff. We want to be in professional stuff. We want to be about. We're just two crusty old Americans, is what we are. We want to talk to real Americans about what's going on in this world here as well. So, you guys have
crusty-
lived a
Two
part.
crusty old Americans.
Well, that's what I was referring to us.
So we might as well talk to two more
Yeah.
crusty old
Yeah,
Americans.
you just
Sounds
might have
like
just.
residue on a rubber.
I think that was a quote from George Washington, wasn't it?
George somebody.
Yeah.
Sure, he wasn't a university guy.
No.
If it was easy, the college boys would be doing it.
Yes, aren't they just fancy?
There you go.
This is fantastic.
God bless you guys. Thanks for having us up.
No, we
Really
appreciate
appreciate it.
having you guys on there. Vagabonds there.
I hope
You
we-
guys
hope
check
we
that
can
out.
do it again.
Read the book.
Amazon.
Have you
Area where you can get together again.
like living in a fucking ice cube?
Just to hang out.
Yeah. Well, he's a Fountain Hills fella, so
Thanks for having
Just
us.
say,
Fountain Hills.
Phoenix. I'm just Phoenix. It's just a suburb of Phoenix.
Yeah, but we'll introduce you to a good friend of ours up in Phoenix who will scare the crap out
Who?
of you. Yokin.
Oh no, Yokin's the reason communism failed. He aided. He was a former Bundeswehr officer who's 6'8", 310 pounds, shaved head, Wharton School of Management graduate.
McMoran Mining.
We
He lives up in Phoenix.
we went to Haiti for the earthquake,
yeah.
and he didn't know at the time that he goes, oh, we have to go to Haiti. They're killing people there. Well, in the meantime, him and I are down in the parking lot arranging for Heckler and Koch automatic weapon, 6 pistols, hand grenades, and all that in case we went in. And then we asked the State Department to get his clearance to get in. And they couldn't do that, so we hired this.
Agent with lots of
Who used to be Donnie Brasso's, the guy Donnie
Yeah,
Brasso?
right.
It was his partner in the FBI. He's Charles Arcasian. He's a little fucking skinny sociopath from Armenia. And he goes, well, if you're going to get a plane or anything to do in the Caribbean, you got to get hold of Chuck. Because Chuck will find out what you need to do and what you need. And the guys that he brought us are 2 Cuban pilots, and I'm going, hey, look, they just killed a couple of guys there. Can you land us outside the city? And the guy goes, we had the credit card from Freeport McMoran's CFO, which is a black, some kind of thing that, when they pulled it out, birds flew out of it.
And
Got
angels.
no
and
fucking
trumpets.
limit on it. They go, and I'm going, what do you need? And he goes, for the amount of money you're paying for this, I'll swear it was children playing with matches. And we asked if we could land outside the city, and that we landed in between two C-117s, and as soon as we hit the first taxiway, the Lear pulled off and went up to the it's in the book. It went up to the main terminal and that, and then they turned around and took off on the taxiway going out the other way. No, great time.
With a French,
Don't
United
ever
Nations
trust old people.
employee.
They'll get you in trouble.
Well, Severn's got a lot of enemies. A lot of enemies in Russia.
We were
so.
getting a briefing from, Pizaki, what's her name? The fucking redhead, Saki, the one, a woman just like that. Georgetown, giving a briefing to all the rescue workers there. They're going, well, you can't do this, can't do that, can't do this, can't do that. And I'm going, she was yelling at this lieutenant colonel from the Air Force that was the air traffic control for Port-au-Prince, bringing all the C-117s. They were landing every 15 minutes. A C-117 was coming in, getting unloaded, and going back out again. Damn. And she was holding up the whole thing to let, what's his name, Anderson Cooper and that bunch in there.
Fuck.
And she's screaming at this lieutenant colonel about, well, you don't know what the president wants. I know what the president wants because I talked to him today. And there's all these rescue teams from Germany, from South Africa, and all that in the tent getting briefed and that. And she's going on and that, ragging on this lieutenant colonel. And I'm in the back of the room. And I went, shut the fuck up. Right? And the whole room went dead silent. I said, you're yelling at this guy who's probably got 30 years experience doing emergency operations and that. You don't know shit. You're some Georgetown University little cunt that came up here with a political agenda and that. And the whole place is like in shock. And everybody's trying to bleed out of the tent. And the Hessian, the 6'3", 6'9", is next to me. He's going, this is your good cop act, right? That's right. This is my good cop act. We ended up leaving out there on the same Learjet with the same two Cubans.
Yeah.
Great trip. We had this little guy named Gator. Gator had been left behind by his team sergeant and the team leader in an ambush in Afghanistan. They thought he was dead. And he was not dead, and he made his way back to the FOB and beat the shit out of both of them and a major, and they threw him out of the Army. Looked just like little George Sherman, the redheaded cavalry leader for the Civil War.
Billy Sherman.
Billy Sherman. Yeah, he goes
Marching through Georgia.
I had all this ammo and shit from these guns that we had illegally acquired. And I said, get rid of them. And he goes and he comes back in 5 minutes. I said, go out in the fucking end of the runway and throw the guns and the shit out, disassemble them, throw them in different places. And back in 5 minutes. I go, what'd you do? He says, I threw it in the shitter for the FEMA guys. They had all these FEMA guys from New York. They had their air-conditioned tents. They had their slit trench. He threw the rounds, all the ammo in there because they were burning their shit every day. He goes, that'll be interesting tomorrow morning. He goes, let's hope it hits that bitch from fucking Georgetown U. Good time.
This is the book.
Well,
You'll have fun, Sam.
No, this is
Thanks for having us.
Thank you,
up.
sir.
It's been a pleasure.
Diana,
yes, sir. Thank you.
had a great time, guys, and I really do. I hope we get together again. Just socially.
Thank you for watching another episode of Dan and Don's Toxic Masculinity. You better like, subscribe, and share, or I'm going to come to your house.